Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tearing into a collection of sources that, they directly challenge everything we think we know about successful parenting and elite education.
You really do.
We're diving into the pretty unconventional philosophy of a father named Mr. Xi. And get this, he had no background in pedagogy, but he developed this approach that just actively rejects academic pressure.
And that is the ultimate paradox we're here to unpack for you. The mission really is to understand how a mindset that put a child's happiness first.
Right, their interest, even their failures.
Exactly. A mindset totally counter to the, hyper-competitive East Asian academic culture, how that became the catalyst for truly exceptional intellectual achievement.
That's a big question.
It is. And if you're feeling overwhelmed by standardized tests or just the sheer amount of stuff you have to learn, this deep dive shows you a path out.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because we really need to emphasize just how radical the results were. His daughter was often dismissed by her classmates, even some teachers. They called her a sueza.
And that term, sueza, it's so important to get this right. It doesn't just mean school failure or, low grades.
No.
It's a really derogatory term. It's closer to academic trash or maybe even scum. To be labeled, that means the system has pretty much written you off.
Yet this supposed academic failure, she goes on to win a provincial programming championship.
Incredible.
And she didn't rely on the usual high-pressure school track. She self-studied her way into Shanghai Jiaotong University, which is one of the top-tier universities in China.
And now
she's thriving in a highly demanding PhD program in the U.S., where she is really recognized for her research capabilities and her unique way of thinking.
It's the ultimate doing everything wrong but getting it spectacularly right story. The father prioritized fun. He challenged authority.
All the things you're told not to do.
All of them. And yet, she achieved this intellectual capacity and these specialized skills far beyond her peers who, followed that traditional high-score path.
Yeah.
It really suggests that maybe the establishment's rules for success are exactly what stifles genuine genius.
So let's start where the system begins to push back, which is the rules. Mr. Shea's core advice to his daughter was completely countercultural. He essentially told her scores are secondary.
Just not the main goal.
Not the main goal. He said it's okay to not listen to your teachers and it's acceptable to skip homework. Now, I have to stop you there because that sounds irresponsible. It sounds dangerous, right?
It does on the surface.
How does he defend actively telling a child to skip homework and reject authority without them just becoming, defiant or falling hopelessly behind?
That's a really necessary question.
Yeah.
And the answer, I think, is autonomy. The sources show he wasn't pushing for defiance just for the sake of it. It was about autonomy for intellectual freedom. He only undermined the authority of the classroom when it was promoting rote compliance over, genuine interest. He'd sometimes take her out of class.
But not to just sit around.
No, not to sit at home and watch TV. She'd take her to a museum or maybe to sit by a lake and just ask these huge open-ended questions about the world. He was framing learning as freedom and exploration, not confinement.
So the de-emphasis on standard metrics wasn't just passive neglect. It was an active, targeted rejection designed to break that psychological link between learning and mandated pain.
Exactly. And the most counterintuitive example of this is how he reacted to poor results. He talks about a time when his daughter really, really struggled. She ranked near the bottom of over 1,000 students in a school-wide test.
Wow. Most parents would panic.
They'd panic, hire tutors, discipline the child, something.
And what was his reaction?
He expressed happiness. He was not critical in the slightest. And by celebrating a monumental failure, he taught her that her inherent worth and the joy of her exploration were completely separate from that test score.
He was building resilience?
He was cultivating an internal locus of control, teaching her that a low score is just data. It's not a judgment on her ability to learn.
And he didn't just tell her to be tough. He gave her historical ammo. He shared the struggles of giants. We're talking about figures like Albert Einstein, who famously had a hard time with conventional schooling, and also the 19th century Chinese statesman Zheng Guofan.
Zheng Guofan is such a perfect example for this context. He was known for being slow to learn in his youth. He struggled immensely with basic texts and exams, often had to reread and restudy things multiple times just to get them.
So by sharing these stories,
Mr. Xi normalized the struggle. It taught his daughter that difficulty, even feeling foolish sometimes, that's part of the journey toward greatness.
Yeah.
It's not a sign of personal failing.
And that immediately cuts the pressure to conform and be perfect. This whole philosophy, it extended directly to what she was supposed to be learning.
Yeah.
You mentioned his view on rote memorization.
Oh, it was entirely dismissive, and I think rightfully so in the 21st century. He taught his daughter that just acquiring knowledge through brute force memory isn't important.
Right.
He stressed that the human brain, no matter how good, it just can't store as much information as accurately or get it back as quickly as a computer. The amount of information out there means storage is kind of pointless.
So the ultimate point being that the goal of education isn't to be a hard drive.
Exactly.
It's application, it's thought, it's challenging what you see. You shouldn't be competing with Google.
Precisely. The knowledge itself is abundant, it's easy to find. The real skill, the one that leads to those PhD research breakthroughs, is knowing what to do with that knowledge. It's all about analysis and synthesis.
And that focus on doing rather than just knowing is exactly what he emphasized when he had that rule of non-intervention. His central idea was that exploring knowledge has to be fun.
It has to be interesting.
Yeah, not linked to pain. As soon as learning is associated with forced grades or sitting rigidly at a desk for homework, you kill the interest.
He was so clear about this. With assignments, he never sat with her for homework. And crucially, he never just gave her the answers when she struggled with a problem. He was outsourcing the effort, the pain, to her. But at the same time, he was coaching her through the process.
Okay, this next part is what I think really changes the whole dynamic between a parent and a child. Because while he didn't give answers, he wasn't hands-off either. He was a master coach of thought.
That's a great way to put it.
When his daughter struggled, his specific method was to ask her to explain her own thought process, the logic she used to try and solve the problem.
And that's the pivot. He shifts the focus from the answer, the product, to the path, the process. He demands she articulate her unique method.
I really want to drill down on that technique because most parents just default to correction, right? No, that's wrong. You need to add this. How exactly did he frame that praise to encourage a new attempt without, rewarding the wrong answer?
Okay, so if her logic was incorrect or even just unconventional, he would vigorously praise her. And he'd specifically say something like, "You are so thoughtful." He wouldn't praise the answer, he praised the effort of thinking.
Ah, okay.
Think about it in a workplace, right?
Yeah.
You aren't always praised for getting a project right the first time. You're praised for designing an innovative process, even if the first attempt fails. It validates the effort.
So he's validating the unique approach. He's basically saying, your brain works in a fascinating way. Now let's try applying that fascinating way differently. It makes learning an act of self-discovery, not compliance.
Yes, and this ties right into how he encouraged this continuous challenge. Mr. Shi would constantly pose these complex, challenging questions that his daughter couldn't answer immediately. Questions about history, science, politics.
Things with no easy answer.
Exactly, and he'd explicitly tell her, "This question is difficult, you can't answer it right now, go explore and reflect." He was cultivating the habit of confronting the unknown, of challenging the status quo, turning a challenge into a source of excitement instead of anxiety.
That makes the process of learning an act of self-challenge and personal exploration rather than just complying with some external authority. And this leads directly into his massive philosophical critique of the standard system.
Absolutely. Mr. Shi's core concern is that modern education, as he sees it, destroys creativity and imagination because it requires fixed standard answers. The student is constantly being trained to obey authority, textbooks, and these fixed answers. It stifles independent thought.
It produces compliance, not critical pioneers.
Right.
The powerful example he uses is so simple. It's just arithmetic, but it's philosophically huge. In the established system, 1 + 1 = 2. That is the only correct answer. But Mr. Shi taught his daughter that 1 + 1 could also equal 10.
And that just immediately flips the script on what rigor even means. It opens up the mind to new possibilities.
But wait, I have to challenge this because this sounds like intellectual anarchy. If we tell kids that 1 + 1 = 10, aren't we just teaching them that facts don't matter? What's the guardrail there for real intellectual rigor?
That's the critical difference. He wasn't saying arithmetic is wrong. He was teaching her to challenge the foundational assumptions of the system. So, for instance, in the binary number system, 1 + 1 does equal 10.
Oh, right.
Or, conceptually, one piece of clay plus another piece of clay equals one larger merged piece. He was emphasizing that scientific progress relies on constantly challenging and overturning established concepts. The key is having thought, being unique, and having the willingness to challenge the status quo. Because if you only accept the standard answer, you never innovate.
That is profound. It teaches you that the established answer is just the current version of the truth, not the final one. And he coupled that challenge with a dose of realism about, individual capabilities.
Yes, he talked a lot about the importance of accepting that every child has different strengths and weaknesses. Some struggle with math, others might lack artistic or musical talent. He defined learning difficulties or poor grades as extremely normal.
Because we're all different.
Because human beings are specialists, not generalists.
And what's fascinating is his idea that shortfalls in one area often mask talent or even potential genius in another. He stresses that the parent's job isn't to fix the shortfalls, but to recognize, admire, and inspire that latent ability.
That's the cornerstone of his approach right there. Viewing the child always with a mindset of admiration and worship.
Which leads us perfectly into the language he used. He was very specific about praise, avoiding abstract, fixed traits like smart or gifted. Why avoid smart?
Well, because if a child believes they are just inherently smart, then failure becomes terrifying. It means they weren't smart enough. So instead, he focused on praising character and effort, things that are within her control, and encourage growth.
So what kinds of words did he use?
He used words like thoughtful, serious, disciplined, and perseverance. This links success directly to internal habits and effort, not some fixed external intelligence you're either born with or you're not.
And even when addressing her weaknesses, those shortfalls, he would actively find excuses or reasons to praise her. He maintained that foundational stance of admiration and worship toward her development.
Yeah, he suggests that even when a child is naughty or mischievous, it often just reflects active, lively thinking that needs to be channeled, not squashed.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this philosophy is really about the ultimate goal of life. Mr. Shi stresses that life isn't solely defined by going to a famous school or getting a good job.
There's so many other paths, maybe better ones.
Right. The quality and meaning of life come from enjoying the present, cherishing time with your kids, enjoying sports, and above all, that spontaneous exploration of knowledge.
It fundamentally shifts the focus from the means getting into a prestigious school to the ends, which is living a fulfilled life powered by genuine interest. He argues that if you only have one great skill that you love, that's enough to live a happy, meaningful life.
And he drives this point home with real-world examples.
He does.
Yeah.
He firmly believes that major achievement in any field is driven by interest and love, not by coercion or parental pressure. He cites an example of a person he knows from King Kian who, despite not finishing primary school, is extremely successful because he's thoughtful and pioneering.
The capacity was there.
That intellectual capacity was there, fueled by interest, despite the formal educational gap. That is the very definition of achieving capacity over compliance.
So what does this all mean? We've seen that prioritizing curiosity and critical thinking over standardized scores and compliance led not just to academic success at the highest level,
Which it did.
but more importantly, to the development of a resilient, self-directed intellectual. His daughter achieved remarkable academic heights precisely because her father allowed her to fail, challenged her to think uniquely, and refused to let external metrics define her worth.
And the core lesson here for you, the learner, is the power of perspective. It's seeing failure not as a source of pain or something that needs to be corrected, but as an unconventional thought process that's just waiting to be validated and refined. You're teaching yourself that your unique logic is valuable even when it leads to a temporarily wrong result.
It encourages us to look at our own fixed answers. If scientific and personal development thrives on constantly challenging standard concepts, where in your own professional or personal life are you currently relying on a 1 + 1 = 2 certainty? That certainty might actually be a hidden 1 + 1 = 10 opportunity waiting to be discovered. What fixed answer are you willing to challenge today?
Go and find your 1 + 1 = 10. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.